Alright you guys, so it is Friday, March 11th, day 2 of basically this vlog stuff. So as I showed you all yesterday, I was in a pound yen trade. Got very close to hitting take profit on the little piece that I left on. As you remember from yesterday, I took partials yesterday, but after that it kind of turned around, went back the other way. I went above my invalidation point on the trade. 1 second, I'll show you that trade now. 2 seconds. So like I said, went above my invalidation point on that trade, represented by these white lines here, and then after that I basically closed the trade down. But now what I'm doing is looking for a possible re-entry to see if we can get a push down. Really, I just needed to get past this low here, so I'll go ahead and put that back on, get the alert back going. And we can see we're pretty close as it is, so I needed to get past this low here, and the way it needs to get past the low, I basically needed to print a fair value gap, which I've talked about before. And if you don't remember, I mentioned before that, I'm using a lot of concepts from this guy ICT on YouTube. So it's like, if you see anything where it's like, oh, what does that mean? Like, blah, 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 like especially fair value gap. It's a concept that I learned from him. And I just used it and like my strategy now, I use it in my strategy now to kind of help better understand things and the way that I do things, make things more accurate, especially when it comes to like picking an area to start looking for an entry. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm waiting to see if we can get a violation of this low, and then also get a formation of a fair value gap with the violation of that low. And then if we get that, gonna be looking to take another sell side opportunity on pound yen here, and see what happens, see what happens next. Also, if we look at very quickly these options plays that I mentioned before, we're starting to look at, the volume profiles of each setup. We have this on Petco, which is not the worst thing in the world, but it could definitely be better, especially in terms of how close this how like squat this volume profile is, and then the shape of, and especially it coming after this one and the shape that this one had, which is more of a kind of a D formation. Definitely had that bit of a B at the bottom here, but we'll see what happens in terms of, this kind of denotes a little bit of a long capitulation or long liquidation, and definitely want to see a bit more follow through. So we'll see what happens today. We'll get some follow through on Petco as well. Joan is actually moving the best in terms of these options plays. So as you can see here, it started moving up, started breaking higher pretty aggressively towards the end of yesterday. That's how it ended up. That's how it ended the session yesterday, was breaking higher this aggressively. And here's like the actual, stop loss, take profit, all that stuff. And so at this point, I'm basically looking to see if we pop out to the 30, we can see that this is the high that I'm seeing, if we can like basically finish running out, see what would happen if we get into this area. And so then that's Joan, and then Vuzix. Much like Petco, need to see some follow through today. It finished like Joan though, it finished the day kind of pushing up, but we'll see if it continues in that way. And that's the alert right now on pound yen. So I need this to print. It basically looks like it's going to print what I need in terms of setting up a fair value gap. So I'm going to size this up now, but my rules definitely say I need, price to print first before actually placing that entry. But regardless, since I have the extra time, I'm going to use that extra time to size things up as they are now. And see what the risk reward likely would be like. It's 40, it's at least 10 pips. All right, I'll go by that 55 level for 40 pips. And then in this case, I'm targeting this green area where we turned around from before. So much better risk to reward than the last trade I took. but again, need this to print first, and basically just need it to finish out the way that it is now. Because it's run this low, I don't need it to close past the low. I used to need it to close past the low, but that's a slight tweak that I made in my strategy recently. Obviously I back tested that tweak. It's not something I just made the tweak and then, just basically implemented it. I back tested it, and it didn't really change my expectancy, if at all. It was kind of surprising to see that. It slightly ticked up a little bit actually, because I think I was able to take a bit more opportunities. But regardless, don't need it to close past the low, but if it does, great. If it doesn't, again, doesn't really matter. But I do need the candle to print, and basically this candle's high to not go into this candle's low here that I'm looking at right now for March 11th at 7:15. So we'll see how that happens. It's looking like it's likely gonna print like that, but we do have 10 minutes, so anything could happen. It could turn around, the low could print higher. I mean, the high could print higher pretty easily. So we'll see what happens on pound yen. I don't usually trade on Fridays, but I'm not one to say like, oh, I can't take an opportunity because it's Friday. Anything can happen in the market, and that's the way that I try to, treat it. So we'll see what happens. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it provided some value to you guys. Alright, you guys, so today was, actually a pretty normal day. Ended up rolling the trade on Joan, but then actually, sorry about that. I ended up closing the trade on Joan, in terms of the options trade. And then I went to go look at the other ones, but I was actually pretty happy with where they were in terms of technicals, holding them into next week. Now, that's not to say that they can't go wrong heading into early next week, but we'll see what we'll see. But yeah, closed out Joan, got some pretty good profit on it, and then actually entered a trade on pound yen today as well. Usually don't enter trades on Fridays, but it materialized. I didn't want to tell it no. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to tell the market that it can't print me an opportunity on Friday. I mean, it did, but one thing that I had to understand with, taking that opportunity was understanding that, at least in my prop firm account, they have rules that you can't hold trades over the weekend. And so because of that, I actually ended up having to close that trade down early in my prop firm account, but I actually left it open on my personal account, just through the weekend as well. So that's what I'm looking at now. Looking at basically there's a trade on pound yen. I got in here, right? And then here's where I covered with Joan as well. So, and that's basically what I'm looking at, what I did at the end of this week. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, man. Hope it provided some value to you guys.